said, I actually believe, this is what he said. He said, I actually believe this is where we're going. And to counter that, as people wake up, they need to find pockets of light. He said, and that was really what was important for the future, was where people of like mind gather together to support each other in their spiritual life, however that evolves, whether it's through feng shui, whether it's through sound, whether it's through massage, whether it's through healing. But the idea is to have it so that people would get together. And again, the idea is misery likes company. But at the same time, it's more than that. It is literally taking these positive qualities of what we're all yearning for and supporting each other. That's what really becomes important. He says that is what needs to be carried into the future, that there will be these pockets of light that will hold through this time period. According to this Buddhist abbot, Ajahn Amaro, that we are now at 2006, we hit the midpoint. And now we're beginning to go into watching the bubble burst in this economy, in this way of living, which oftentimes has been the result of tremendous imbalance. Okay? And to some extent, each one of us is benefiting from that imbalance. Okay? To some extent, we've gotten used to it, and we have to get used to it being different. Okay? None of us do not have blood on our hands one way or the other. If we drive a car, where did the oil come from? Whose lands have been destroyed as a result of the production of oil? Little knobs on our cars. Were they being manufactured and pressed in some prisoner of war, prison camp in China or wherever? We all have that. We all have this interconnection in that way. We try and reduce that as much as possible. And we have to go through our frustrations and our struggles with trying to become more and more sustainably conscious, more green, more aware. And hopefully what happens is we receive support from friends to try and be that way. And more importantly, that we're able to try and pass that information on. Because my own personal view is, and it was very interesting, there's a woman in the United States, she's a financial consultant, her name is Susie Ormond. I don't know if you ever turn on TV, and she's just, she's very loud, she's very California, she wants to share with everybody, which everybody in California wants to share, And she was saying that normally we've gotten used to the idea of, there being these kind of like crashes and rebounds. And she says, well, this is going to be like a crash and an L for a long period of time. She says it's not going to rebound. It's going to take a long time for that to happen. So in many ways, I think what does happen, and this is, it's really wonderful to have it so that in this last election, Barack Obama was made president of the United States. That was very cool. Okay. It was fun because I was flying into London when the announcement came over the PA on the plane. It was very, very neat. And I was watching, the response in the TV because I was staying with Christian and we were watching it happening as it was happening. And I think what it is it is a change of heart. It is a connection with light. It was really hard to do what he did. It was really hard. What you have to realize is that in 2004, John Kerry won the election. Someone began, and what had happened was he had made a commitment that the Democratic Party raised $20 million as a legal defense fund to contest anything if they thought there was foul play. Well, there was foul play in Ohio, but also the realization that John Kerry belongs to the same fraternity as George W. Bush. Very secret society. And it could have been a secret handshake that made him not contest it, Or it could have been also that he realized that $20 million wasn't going to do it. It wasn't enough. Obama raised a phenomenal amount of money, more than any other presidential candidate has ever raised. And what happened was he had legal teams everywhere in the United States. It was the most watched, guarded election in the history of the United States. And that's what made it so that corruption didn't really get to it. Now he's been made president with no money. The American government has no money. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But what I look at this as being is a manifestation of light, of possibility. And I think what I sent an email blast out. I read it to Christian when I did it. To me, what it is reminding people that we have a tendency that when we see things change, or we build up to something and there's a breakthrough, then what we do is we have a tendency to go back to sleep for a while because things are cool, everything's going our way again, the world's right. And I think in this situation, what we need to realize is we don't have time to sleep. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't have fun, doesn't mean you can't relax. Okay? But what it means is for us to climb back into a complacency about our world just isn't an option. You know? And that as that happens, the important thing is to, and it was one of the, I would say that in terms of the interviews that I did, I was surprised at the variety of responses to any number of issues, and I'm happy for you to ask me anything about any of those issues that I mentioned earlier. But at the end of the interview that I did with all these teachers, and I don't know if all of you know who the teachers are, but one is Shamar Rinpoche, one is a man by the name of Tenzin Wangyal, who is a Bon Buddhist teacher, Tarthang Tulku Rinpoche, who runs Dharma Publishing in the United States. This was his first interview in 30 years. Had refused to be interviewed, and he was willing to go on record. Geshe Michael Roach, who wrote a book called The Diamond Cutter. If you ever want to see a book about Dharma or Buddhist principles in business, it's a really wonderful book. Joan Halifax, who is a Zen Buddhist teacher. Thubten Chodron, who is like there's Pema Chodron and there's Thubten Chodron. There's two Chodrons. Thubten Chodron writes a lot of Buddhist literature. She's a Buddhist nun. Ajahn Amaro, who is a Theravadan Buddhist abbot. Christopher Titmuss, who lives here in the UK, a wonderful teacher, especially looking at, has been involved in terms of political activism. Wanted to definitely express the point that people needed to realize that Buddhism was more than just a navel-gazing club. That Buddhism has always been actively engaged. That's why you had the monks burn themselves in Vietnam, why it was the Buddhist monks in Myanmar who have been responsible for really making people in the world know what's going on in terms of the injustices going on inside Myanmar. And then the other teacher was Robert Thurman, who was Uma Thurman's dad, is a good friend, is a good close friend of the Dalai Lama. And at the end, what I said to each one of them was, because all of them travel, it's like I said, okay, let's say, for example, you were getting on a plane near Darfur, or it could be in, Kandahar. And as you're leaving, you know that the people that you are leaving behind are fearful because of the danger that's around them. The bombs going off in their neighborhoods, the attacks of rebels, etc., etc. What would you say to these people to help them cope with their circumstance? And across the board, Their answer was, just think of others.